That wasn't that hard. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today for what is going to be a very, very exciting announcement. I'll begin. My name is Terry Jensen. I'm the MLA for Warman and the Minister of Social Services and the Minister responsible for the Saskatchewan Housing Corporation. I'll begin by acknowledging that the land that we are gathered on is Treaty 6 territory and the traditional land of the Métis. I'm here today with Premier Scott Moe, Her Worship Mayor Cynthia Block, and others to announce new funding that will enhance service delivery and improve outcomes for people in Saskatoon who are experiencing homelessness. I'd also like to acknowledge my cabinet colleagues that are here today, the Honourable Tim MacLeod, Minister of Justice and Minister of Corrections, Policing and Public Safety, as well as Minister Ken Sheldayov, the Minister of Advanced Education and the MLA for Saskatoon Willow Grove, as well as Saskatoon Police Chief Cam McBride. And also in attendance, we have Provincial Secretary and MLA for Martensville, Blairmore, Jamie Martins. Our government wants all Saskatchewan residents to have the opportunity to live to their fullest potential. As Minister of Social Services, I see the impact of the work the ministry is doing to assist those in need of supports. Often, this work addresses very complex issues and requires a collaborative approach with municipal and community partners. Today's announcement reflects that collaboration to ensure those experiencing homelessness have access to the services they need to find stability and move forward towards stable housing. This time, I'll turn things over to Premier Scott Moe.
Thank you very much, Minister Jensen, and thank you for your work specific to today's announcement. Welcome, Mayor Block, and thank you we have not only Mayor Block, but most of the council here today as well. We had the opportunity to have some productive time talking about how to ensure that Saskatoon remains one of the greatest cities in Canada and around the world. Minister MacLeod is with us, our Minister of Justice, Policing and Corrections as well, Minister Sheldayov, our Advanced Education Minister, and Chief McBride. Thank you for joining us here today. And thank you for the work that you do each and every day, and through you to each of the members that you work alongside. Thank them for keeping our community and our province safe. It brings me great pleasure to be here today to reaffirm the Government of Saskatchewan's commitment to addressing issues that we increasingly see in our communities, issues with respect to homelessness and supporting programs and supporting those that are providing services and programs to some of our communities' most vulnerable individuals and families. We want to continue, and we strive to continue to work together, bringing together all levels of government in support of the people that we collectively represent, wherever that might be. And through those conversations, what we heard, and for this, we owe a debt of gratitude to Mayor Block for providing us with some guidance, providing the Minister and the provincial government with some guidance. That more predictable and consistent funding would support some of the long-term planning that they can do in supporting those that are most vulnerable and living in our communities. And so today what we are announcing is a $3 million addition to fund additional drop-in services, and so that we can provide collectively drop-in services in the city of Saskatoon for 365 days a year for those that might need it. That certainty of funding we were advised by Mayor Block how important that could be to providing that service day in, day out. The Ministry of Social Services and the City of Saskatoon are now going to work together to allocate this funding to service providers to best meet the community's needs, and I think most importantly, best meet the needs of individuals and families that require that service. This is on top of the new services that have been established over the last period of time, the provincial approach to homelessness, or the PATH funding, or the PATH investment of $40 million over a 2-year time period. Since then, and since the announcement of that investment, the Government of Saskatchewan has collaborated with a number of partners to deliver on the PATH commitments that were put forward. For example, in Saskatoon, PATH investment has funded 99 supportive housing spaces, 60 enhanced emergency shelter spaces, 15 complex emergency facility spaces, as well as street outreach and community safety responses. And Minister Jensen, you were talking about some of the good work being done by some of our community-based organizations and people in supporting those in our communities. The PATH framework has provided us with the very foundation of ongoing collaboration with those community-based organizations, those individuals that are providing that support with our other levels of government, and we are appreciative of the advice and the guidance that we have received there. And it has allowed us, the PATH investment has allowed us to open up additional points of collaboration, and is really the pillar of the announcement that we bring here today to build on that pillar of strength that we have in the PATH funding. So we're going to continue in the future to collaborate with all of those at the City of Saskatoon, as well as many other communities across the province as we tackle what is an increasing complex issue, not isolated to Saskatchewan, but we see that increasingly complex issue across the nation of Canada, and we are continuing to use the strength of the Saskatchewan economy to invest in services that people want to see in their community. And so thank you, Minister Jensen. Thank you, Mayor Block, for really being the precipitous of this announcement here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier, and you alluded to it. The answers to this very, very complex issue run deep, and it requires collaboration between so many different orders of government, community-based organizations, and we're going to continue to make those investments and have those collaborations and discussions. So with that, I'm going to ask Mayor Block to step forward with a few words.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the media for being here today for this announcement. A safe place to be 365 days a year. That is an enormous and vital step forward for our community. And I want to say a deep thank you to the province of Saskatchewan for listening. Mr. Premier, for the talks we've been able to have, to be able to speak frankly about what we are seeing in our city. It makes an enormous difference when we work together and listen, not just to each other, but to the people we represent, and foundationally, the people that will need access to the services. As Saskatoon goes forward with its new homelessness action plan, there's pieces of that the city is involved in, and of course it's a whole community approach that is Indigenous-led. But that plan is also informed by people with lived experience of homelessness, and those pieces, I think, are some of the really pivotal pieces of understanding why we need to move in this direction. I want to say a huge thank you to Minister Jensen, the Minister of Social Services, whose role it is to help to put these programs together. We are very fortunate to have Minister Jensen, who lives very close to the city of Saskatoon, so that we've had really good opportunities to speak to it. And of course, Minister Shoveldayoff, as the MLA from Saskatoon, has always been a strong advocate. Chief McBride is here today. I know that Police Chiefs had an opportunity to have a conversation today, and just how important we know protecting all of the residents of our city is. Not it's for everyone. That ability to understand that community safety is foundational to how we go forward as a community to protect people who are unhoused, but also everyone else. And how do we figure out that line and how we're going to do that? And to that point, Minister McLeod, of course, is responsible for that safe neighborhood announcement, and our city has chosen to adopt that at the request of our city police service. And these are the pieces that we're working together to make sure that we are creating a place for people to be as we look for that longer piece to make sure that all people can be safely housed. And I would be remiss not to acknowledge my colleagues on City Council. I believe all members of Council were here today, with the exception of one that was, Councillor Davies was not able to be here. In with us, we have Councillor Timone, who represents the area around Pleasant Hill and Caswell, and how important that is to have his leadership in this file as well. Councillor Kelleher is here. She's on the subcommittee of homelessness. Councillor Ford is also on that subcommittee. Who else do we have in the room? Is Councillor McDonald, Councillor Parker, who am I not seeing? Councillor Dubois. Councillor Dubois. Councillor Dubois has been a strong advocate of so many of the foundational pieces that are helping to move our city forward, not just on the homelessness and community safety side, but also in that that wider sphere around housing and core services and transit and how do all of those pieces move together. And I think the reason I mention all of these people and all of those points is because it really is a completely integrated process in order to be able to deliver for our residents. And I'm grateful for the leadership on council and for our colleagues in the Saskatchewan legislature as we work urgently with one another on some of these foundational matters of our time. Homelessness is increasing in our city, and we are not getting in front of it. What are we going to do differently? This is different. This is making sure that at the start, we at least make sure that everyone has a safe place to be. And part of that announcement today means that we are moving forward with our winter warming plan because we know we'll have 365 days a year. We don't have to talk about winter warming or summer warming. Some of that programming will look a little bit different, but we at least know that it will happen. And you know that return on investment goes much further than the people that it will directly serve. The amount of staff time, the amount of council time, the amount of police time and fire time that we spend urgently trying to figure out warming in the winter or drop-in centers in the summer, it will save an enormous amount of time and energy and allow us to focus on the many other things that our city requires. So I just, again, a tremendous thank you. We know that these are building blocks, and when we build them together, we can get to the other side of the crises that we are facing and make sure that we are serving all residents. We start here, and we know we've heard about the additional housing that the province has offered. Many of you will know that the City of Saskatoon accepted the Housing Accelerator Fund, 757 units. How can we make sure we're working together really, really well to ensure that we are providing the right capacity with the right wraparound supports so that every resident who needs it receives the help they need? That's a win-win for everyone in our city and in our province. So again, I very much appreciate your leadership, Mr. Premier, on this issue. It is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Block, and very well said. The dialogue and the collaboration again, and the listening from the people of Saskatoon is the direct result of what we're doing today. So with that, I would invite the media to, if they have any questions, the Premier and the Mayor will now be available to answer questions.
So will you.
Oh, so will I, apparently.
I guess a point of clarification on this funding. Is this specifically for like the Station 20 West and White Buffalo Youth Lodge? Does this kind of delve into the winter warming centers as well? And does this kind of like, is the city still on the hook for like facility costs?
So I can maybe start with that answer, and then I'll hand it over to Mayor Block to expand on. But the additional $3 million will be provided to the city, and we will work together between the Ministry of Social Services and the City of Saskatoon to identify where programs or services need to be expanded. For instance, the cold weather strategy that the City of Saskatoon would have, that'll be obviously part of this funding. Those discussions will happen. We will expand on the programs that we know are working, and then the city, combined with the ministry, will decide on other things that can be done. Whether it's winter, spring, summer, because this is predictability for 365 days out of the year. So if you want to add on to that.
As you can imagine, we wanted to make sure that we had this announcement as early as possible because the weather is changing. And, well, actually, it's not just yet. Let's enjoy it while it's here. As the weather changes, we know it's important to have these pieces in place, and we wanted to make sure the community knew that the government of Saskatchewan and the City of Saskatoon are definitely working together to make sure that funding is in place to accommodate what is needed to support people who are unhoused this winter. However, that longer term piece of knowing that it's stable funding, 365 days a year, it relieves a lot of pressure on the city and on civic services in our city. in terms of those capital pieces or additional, maybe it's lease costs, that's all being discussed. So I don't have that full answer today, and council has not dealt with this. So I wouldn't want to presuppose what that would look like. I think, I think generally what I'm hoping is that we continue to work in the spirit of collaboration, understanding the core business of each order of government, and how are the other ways that we can be more creative to help get everyone in our city involved. I've said it before, the police chief said it in chambers about a week ago, that we are not going to get to the other side of the crises we face through government alone. We need to work urgently with everyone, with our community service providers, but also residents and businesses. And how can we do that and be more creative in ways that get ahead of this problem instead of always trying to reach for it? And again, it's why today's announcement is so significant, because it allows us to at least take that first step of predictable funding, knowing what the plan is, and now what do we do next? Does that answer your question?
So when it comes to being unhoused and all the things that encompass that, we know that wraparound supports are really important. Is some of the funding also going to be continuing having those supports while people are in shelters or in warming centers?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so what the funding does is it provides community-based organizations, and I'll use Saskatoon Tribal Councils as an example. So the work that they're doing, this enables us to, and I'll use White Buffalo Youth Lodge. That was something that we started in July, and it was to make sure that children, youth, had a place to go. If they were on the streets for whatever reason, it could be a family breakdown, it could be a number of reasons. We want to make sure those youth are safe and have a safe place to go. So this is going to enable CBOs such as STC to be able to have that predictable funding so that we're not kind of lurching along with ad hoc programs and services during the year. So, we'd get into springtime, we would start talking about cooling centers or some type of shelter in the summertime. What this will do will allow the City of Saskatoon to collaborate with the Ministry of Social Services, along with our community-based organizations and our Indigenous partners, to put together a comprehensive plan moving forward that addresses the most pressing needs for sure. And then, again, giving that predictability is key in this area. Mayor Block, does that pretty much sum it up? Or do you?
Yeah. I actually just would maybe add that so much of our ability to have some confidence in this process going forward is because of the commitment that the province made last spring, right? Where we worked together in partnership with the City of Saskatoon and the province and Saskatoon Tribal Council to create those initial drop-in centers for the summer. And so, to the minister's point, White Buffalo is, I guess a sort of a testing ground for understanding how, not just how can we find a safe place for youth to be, but how can this help to prevent people from being unhoused in the future? That looking to young people as a really core foundational piece of solving homelessness in our city is so important to prevent homelessness in the first place. So I really commend the province for moving in that direction, and anything that we can learn and glean from the I guess we'll call it a pilot project that now will be expanded and will go forward into the future, that prevention piece is going to be super important for young people, and especially on the reconciliation side. That's going to be, we know that most of the housed in our city are Indigenous, and that if we are going to get to the other side of this in the longer term, young people are going to have to be a main focus. And what we learned from Station 20 and from the project at Comfy, the washroom project, is that they were Indigenous-led, and they ended up being tremendously successful. The official stats will come out in the weeks ahead, but they are the peacekeeper piece in particular that we worked together to achieve at the Comfy location, whereas part of that is peacekeeping and part of that is navigation, like trying to figure out how we get access to people with the services. How do we put those two together? But there was something in that handoff of knowing that it was Saskatchewan that was on the ground, communicating with the relatives and encouraging them to get that access. That, I think, is going to be foundational to how we move forward. If we're looking for an approach that is different than the way we've always done it. And the way we've always done it isn't working. And so, again, I commend everyone in this room who is working so hard to take this as a fresh lens and to do the pieces where the evidence and data support it. Thank you.
Mayor Block, you said that this money helps prevent scramble in winter for the warming shelters, and I wonder if there's a timeline for when you want these services in place. November 20th, I think, last year was when the warming shelters finally opened up, and we're about 2 months away from that. So what is the timeline for getting these services back up and running?
Well, I'm grateful that the current drop-in centers will be active until the end of October. And it is my strong hope that this will simply be continuous, that there will not be a gap in the services. There will be changes because how winter warming needs to happen is a bit different because of the overnight component. But I'll let the minister speak to that.
Sure. Again, this is the type of collaboration that's going to be happening between the ministry and the city. One thing that's important, and Mayor Block identified that was a gap. So that we don't have a drop-in center closing and then 3 weeks, where do these individuals go? So we're going to be having those conversations in terms of making sure that there's a seamless transition in there. I just want to go back to the mobile outreach component of this with Saskatchewan. Those are individuals that are out in the street, and they're talking to these individuals that, for whatever reason, find themselves unsheltered. The work that they're doing, we've seen the evidence come in, the data is in. We're taking those services that the outreach workers are taking to the streets. We're seeing those individuals accepting help. Not all of them. It all depends whether they're ready to accept help or not, but we're seeing some successes there. So that's one of the key pieces, and that'll be a key piece going through winter, is ensuring that the opportunity for an individual to have somewhere warm to be will continue.
So, Mayor Black, you brought up something great, and so did you yesterday, that we're changing approaches. You said the way we're doing it isn't working right now, and yesterday you said the province is switching to a recovery rehabilitation model. How has that been, and are you kind of looking forward to seeing the results of what rehabilitation and recovery looks like in terms of unhoused or addictions that we do see in Saskatoon's unhoused population?
You want me to speak to that?
Whoever would like to, see it.
Do you want to speak to that?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, the province is transitioning to a recovery-oriented system of care model when it comes to addictions and mental health, and that was one of the key pillars of the plan that the province unveiled a couple of years ago. And this certainly plays into that broader plan, where you're talking about making more accessible treatment spaces for people who are battling addiction, making it easier for them to get into those spaces. And the recovery-oriented system of care is really about identifying that people who are battling addiction have unique needs, and you can't paint everybody with the same brush. Some folks will need certain services that others won't. But as they receive those services, making them more accessible, making it easier for people to access those services, they're working through that recovery journey, and the supports that are being announced today will certainly play into the transition as they work through that recovery-oriented system.
Is there a plan for how many years this funding will be allocated for, like a timeline of that?
Sure. So right now, we're in the provincial approach to homelessness is finishing up a 2-year, $40.2 million investment, and this investment of $3 million additional will be for the next year, and then we're going to be working on a longer term piece for not only Saskatoon but for other centers in the province as well. So, stay tuned.
And building off of the alternative options that you had just brought up, can you elaborate on at what point we can move past the day-to-day services and build into those other options that residents and those struggling with homelessness are calling for?
So, I mean, The recovery model is extremely important. That's everybody's goal, right? Is that folks get well and can enjoy their life. I think the piece, and I believe the minister alluded to it, actually both of you did, about meeting people where they're at. Not everyone is going to require the same level of service or be willing to accept the same level of service. So how do we work with healthcare providers to make good decisions for people? I think the policy role is simply to allow that to happen, right? And from my perspective, the goal will always be that every person in our city has not just a safe place to be, but a safe place to call home in our city. That every resident should have that opportunity. And that's not just a statement with regards to the humanity of it all. It is also about the return on investment literally for every single resident of our city and our province. That we are not going to get where we need to go unless we do what we know we need to do for the people that we live with in our city.
Can you go a little deeper into what specifically drove you to make this request of additional funds?
Well, it's urgently needed. We know that we continue to have more people who are unhoused in our city, despite our best efforts. So what do we need to do differently? Specifically, we need to ensure people have a safe place to be, a safe place to sleep at night, and work toward ensuring they have the option for a safe home, whatever that looks like. And that will be different for different people. And many people in this news conference this morning or this afternoon have mentioned that some will require certain types of wraparound supports. Some people may not. How do we right-size this so that we are, using the right tools at the right time to support people who are unhoused, and also being, very cognizant that the dollars that we spend we should be able to demonstrate that we are getting and moving in a direction that not only are people getting the access to the help that they need, but we have right-sized it to the point that we are also mindful of the resources that we are expending to get there.
One of the most recent projects is this 60-bed enhanced emergency shelter. The last time we spoke about this, you made reference to the fact that sometimes these decisions just have to be made. And although that means a little bit less democracy involved in making those decisions, it's what gets things pushed forward. Can you touch a little bit on how, moving forward with these kind of projects, what supports can be given to residents like in the Caswell neighborhood who have spoken openly on how unhappy they are with their voices not being as heard as they might have been to be?
Well, thanks for the question, Grace. I think that, as you know, the Caswell Community Association has written a letter that is, really outlines the options that I think both the province and the city can consider to address those concerns. A lot of that is communication. And that speaks to everything we're talking about today. When we all get to know each other and we listen and we are working with all orders of government and with our community partners and, at the baseline, the people that are directly impacted by the decisions that we make, that we can get somewhere. But I think yet if we disagree, we have to keep talking. And that's perhaps a good lesson for all of us, that if we keep talking, we can get where we need to be for all of the residents. And I've known this because I've been on council for a long time. Any kind of change is it's almost never met with an applause by most people, because change can be scary for folks. So how do we, as elected officials, make that better? And we know that we've had engagement sessions, but that doesn't end there. We will continue to talk to community. Councillor Timon, who represents the area, will continue working with him to make sure that we are communicating well and understanding what's happening on the ground. So people who are unhoused feel safe, and so does the neighborhood around them.
It's mentioned that the numbers keep growing. They're not getting better at this point. I'm wondering if the Premier could address any policy changes that they might consider with regard to the SIS program.
I think when you look at whether it be the $3 million additional investment today or the roughly $20 million investment over 2 years of the original provincial approach to homelessness investment. If we go back, pick a city in Canada and go back 10 years, that funding wasn't being asked for to the degree that it is today. And so the very complex reasons behind why we in many Canadian communities are looking at not only ad hoc funding to support homeless people that unfortunately have found themselves without a home, to support them through a pathway to a better life and to a place to live, it has changed. And the complexity behind all of the reasons that are there have changed as well. And we're seeing, we're seeing that change in our emergency departments, in our large urban centers. Chief McBride is seeing that change in our communities right here in Saskatoon as well. And so I think really what you're seeing first of all is us as multi-levels of government talking with people that we collectively represent to first of all determine what are the complex needs, how do we actually address those complex needs and do so together, and where we are seeing ourselves head in this province is around providing those recovery opportunities. Not all. Needs are different, as Minister MacLeod had said, not all, but a significant number of those that are finding themselves without a home do have either some mental health issues or have unfortunately slipped into a life or living with addictions. We need to have those recovery opportunities available, and if we live in a province where we have, the economic strength that we have in Saskatchewan, I certainly want to be a part of a government that is investing in those recovery opportunities for people, because those folks, they're someone's brother and someone's sister. They're a son or a daughter, and quite likely even a mom or a dad. And they deserve the opportunity to be able to access a recovery opportunity and a pathway to a home. That's what this type of funding is about. And 10 years ago, the conversation wasn't there. I would say 5 years ago, the conversation around ad hoc funding was being discussed. And what you're seeing today is, and very much due to the advice that we provided from the City of Saskatoon Council through the Mayor Block, is to solidify some of that funding, whether it be through the original provincial approach to homelessness 2-year program, of which I think you will see us build on as we find our way to next spring's budget, but this $3 million enhancement as well to provide those supports. And so it's about providing the supports, meeting people where they need with the supports that they need. There's more work to do in this space, no doubt, by our government and by many other governments across Canada as well. But this is what we intend on using. When you hear me talk about the strength of the Saskatchewan economy, this is what that economy is for.
So are you hoping that these top-ups or enhancements, happen in other large centers like Prince Albert and Regina for those who, like you said, are unhoused or with mental health and addictions?
Yeah, the provincial approach to homelessness is across the province. However, largely is centered on our larger urban centers, as that's where the resources are often being provided. We met with the police chiefs from across Saskatchewan this morning, our CMP municipal officers and others, and Chief Nogier had actually talked about and has talked with this government, with the Minister of Social Services as well as the Minister of Police and Corrections, about the effectiveness that he is seeing with the complex needs facility here in Saskatoon and Regina, and how that would be very helpful in the city of Prince Albert. And so that discussion as well is happening alongside, providing some of this funding that is enhancing the provincial approach to homelessness investments that are being made. So there is the reasoning behind what we're seeing in our Canadian communities, and I would say North American communities, is very complex, and the approach has to, as Minister MacLeod says, meet people where they are. And often the supports aren't just about money, but they're equally as complex in how they're being provided. And I think that's why it's so important for all of us in whatever level of government or if we are serving as a volunteer person in a community-based organization that are providing these services, and our police forces, is to be listening and working together for the greater good.
My sports team just wants to know, how do you feel about the Rough Riders introducing tailgating next year?
We certainly are. Tailgating. All good. Yeah, some discussion around that. But I would say with respect to the Rough Riders, we certainly will be in the Grey Cup this year. Probably 100% chance that we're going to win the Grey Cup. What will be the most sweet about that is we're going to win it in Winnipeg.
Going back to alternative solutions, some have criticized the allocation of support funds going into those who are already experiencing homelessness rather than preventative measures. Can you expand on the province's plan to start investing in those options?
What's that? Yeah. Minister Jensen, maybe speak to some of the work of White Buffalo and whatnot. Is you have to start somewhere, is what I would say. As Mayor Block had said, and I think many others across Canada in various cities would agree with, is this the challenge that we're facing as society is growing quicker than the solutions are. And there's much complexity behind why that is. And so there's a multifaceted of investments, quite honestly, that are being made to meet people where they are and provide the supports that we can. But you need to start somewhere. And you start with people that are already homeless today or don't have a place to call home today. But you're exactly right. If you are going to find your way to the root of at least some of the complex issues behind why this is happening, you do need to get ahead of it. You need to get ahead of it. And I would suggest one of the ways that we can get ahead, at least one of the areas of that complex cause, is with respect to preventing access of the very poisonous drugs that we're seeing in Canada and across North America into our communities. And we've taken steps in that space as well, working alongside our federal government where we can to prevent, crystal meth and fentanyl, drugs that are much more addictive than anything we've seen in years gone by from being in our communities in any way, shape, or form. That's one cause of many. But that is an example of, I think, something that we can collectively work on for the betterment of not society, yes, society as a whole, but individuals. And again, I just go back to, people that are finding themselves in a very vulnerable position. They're no longer a community away. They're family members, they're friends, it's much closer than it certainly has been in years gone by.
Mr. Premier, just a quick question here.
The last question.
On the strength of the economy, with more than half of this year's crop in the bin, what options do farmers have for the canola they have and are harvesting, given the unchanged situation with China right now?
I think, as I said, I was in China last week as well as Japan, and there's much happening in the international trade space and the discussion around tariffs and market access and things of those nature. And our canola price is likely off a little bit from where it should be. However, there still is some strength in the general pricing, and it looks like we have an average or slightly above average crop in general across the province, not in every area. We're working very closely alongside the federal government to open up the opportunities that we have with one, our largest trading partner for canola and many, many other products, which is the United States of America. And two, with our second largest trading partner when it comes to canola, and in Saskatchewan's case, all of our other products is China. And herein goes, as I said, a very delicate balance in those discussions as we see a president that is working quite hard to reset the United States of America's trade relationship, not just with Canada and Mexico, but with many, many countries around the world. And so this is the federal government's space to operate. As I have said many times, we are there to use the contacts that we have, as Saskatchewan is the highest per capita exporting region in North America, to use the contacts that we have through our trade offices and various missions that we've conducted over the last number of years to assist and to enhance the work of the federal government. And that's exactly what we did in China this past week, and I'm confident that we were able to open up doors for the federal government to actually continue with the momentum of some of the negotiations that we started. And I would just close with saying thank you to the Prime Minister for sending his Parliamentary Secretary, Cody Blois, along with us, and that is a very direct liaison now for additional ministers to be in market in China over the next few months, hopefully with a culminating in a meeting either at the APEC summit or the G20 by our Prime Minister and the President of China to find some type of a resolution to the current situation that we have. And I would just make one more comment, because this question might be coming as well, with respect to electric vehicles, and should it be a 0% tariff or should it be a 100% tariff? My position has been clear all along, is it's much more nuanced than that. Other countries have found a path forward to be able to trade with China and the United States, such as Mexico and the European Union. They have neither a 0% tariff on electric cars coming from China or a 100% tariff on electric cars coming from China. And so my advice to the Prime Minister, being in Ottawa earlier this week when it comes to both the USA and China, was to engage at every level. And my advice to industries that are doing business, whether it be in the USA and or China, is to engage at every level. And then start to look for signals, in particular with China's signals. The JETC, the Joint Economic Trade Mission, was restarted after 7 years of being dormant. Vice Minister Li, from the Ministry of Commerce in China, attended here in Canada. That's a signal that China is ready to look ahead and recalibrate the trade relationship that we have, and to not look back. And I think federal ministers being on the ground alongside the liaisoning with Cody Blois, who was there with us, will also be a signal from Canada's perspective that we're ready to look forward and recalibrate the trade relationship with China on a pragmatic and constructive path forward.
I actually just wanted to ask a quick question there. Obviously, support for ISC's strategic review. Mr. Premier,
Yeah, I don't know if I can comment on that. You can put a release on that.
No, I'm in the way. Right.